So for the distributor that does decide that they want to sell, what are some of the general steps in the process, and kind of what does the general process look like?
Oh, that's a good question. We get asked that a lot, and I wish there was a little playbook or a piece of paper, for example, with the questions on it. We spent almost 2 decades building a process to make acquisitions. The due diligence phase is typically somewhere between 60, 75 days on the short end. It can go up to 4 months or so, depending on the nature of what we're trying to do. But a true deep due diligence dive, which is really important if you're looking to acquire a company, covers literally every facet of the business. So you're digging into customers and stability of customer base and concentration of customer base and reach and frequency and monetary values and direct marketing stats of that. You're looking at vendors and concentration of vendors, and will they allow an M&A? Will they transfer their franchise, so to speak, to a new buyer? You're looking at the IT systems. You're looking at operations and DC efficiency, and is there an ERP and a WMS, and how does everything work? And all of that, to be honest, is secondary to management and key personnel. So the first thing we're talking to the team about, and you should talk to a team about, is what does the management want to do? There are always deeper relationships there between management and customers and vendors and employees than quite often get put on the table to begin with. And there are always going to be a handful of key salespeople, if it's an outside sales model, and quite often even with an inside sales model, you really need to wrap your hands around and understand. But our playbook literally is over an inch thick. It's been developed over almost 2 decades. And every time we get into a new engagement or work with a new firm, we learn something every single time. So it's not for the faint of heart, and I would encourage your viewership not to take on a large acquisition as a first part-time job. Pretty dangerous, especially with your own bank account.
So when you've seen people selling, what are the common mistakes that distributors make, or do they leave steps out? What are things that distributors should avoid when they're going through this process?
And that gets back somewhat to the question that you just asked before, Angela, because it's kind of a Corey saying, but we really take it to heart and think it's true, and that is, you should not practice medicine without a license. We don't think you should practice M&A without experience. It's usually a large dollar. Unless it's a small tuck-in to your business, it's usually a large dollar. You're putting your own balance sheet at risk in making that acquisition. There are literally tens of different major ways that a deal can fall apart. You can be missing something in due diligence, missing something with key personnel. It could be a current shareholder issue. I mean, again, we've got an inch-thick long playbook we have to go through, and where deals become challenged at times is different every single time we go through that process. So it's make sure you have the expertise in-house. If you don't, go out and partner with somebody or rent the expertise, but do it in some way, because it's a very serious situation when you're looking to make an acquisition. Done right, it can add significant value to the enterprise and to your company. Done wrong, it can have some pretty significant downside implications.
So let's look at things from the other side of the perspective here. If a distributor is planning on possibly buying another company, what does the process look like from their end? How is it different, and what are the major steps that they would need to take?
Again, it goes back to the playbook. And at the risk of being repetitive, it really gets down to one of the things we talked about a moment ago, and that's, we do this for a living. We have a playbook, we've developed it over 10, 15 years, and every time we're involved in an acquisition, be it a platform, Angela, or even a small tuck-in acquisition, almost every time we learn something new. So there is as much or more art to acquisitions than there is the checklist and the process and the skill. So if you look at what it takes to make the acquisition on the side, there are just a lot of different places one can go wrong. We've seen distributors who make acquisitions not even engage an accounting firm to do what's called a quality of earnings review, which is really one of the initial steps to make sure that the financials are set. Because many times the financials that are presented in either a review or an audit don't truly represent the full nature of what the business would look like post-transaction, because a lot of owners, who are also managers in the business, are managing the business somewhat to minimize taxes, which is part of the benefit of owning a business. So we always have to look at what does the business look like post-transaction. And that's just one little piece just in terms of vetting out the financials. But everything we talked about from every step of the business, from customers to vendors and operations and the entire business, you have to dig in deep really deep into everything, because you never know where you're going to find the gotcha. And our job is always to keep looking until we're clear of gotchas, or we find them, and then we talk through with that company what we found and how to best structure and how to work around it. So again, it gets back to, as a doc, don't practice medicine without a license. If you're going to do M&A, you don't have a lot of experience in your firm, please go out and find individuals that can help to do that, or partner with folks like ourselves and grow this business together over the next 5 or 10 years.